It could have been worse. We could have been shot.
Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines are a pair of cut-ups working as Chicago cops in Running Scared, one of 4 new movies we'll be reviewing this week on At the Movies, the movie review program. I'm Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times. In addition to Running Scared, this week we'll also be reviewing Legal Eagles, the legal action, comedy, thriller, romance, drama, starring Robert Redford, Deborah Winger, and Daryl Hannah. Also American Anthem, a movie about Olympic gymnasts by the director of Prince's Purple Rain. But first, Gene starts with The Karate Kid, Part 2.
Part 2 tries to be different from the original film, a different setting, some new characters, and I certainly give it credit for that. But the film steadily gets more predictable until the inevitable final fight at the end. So I have mixed feelings about the picture. Ralph Macchio again stars as young Daniel, the karate student, and a disciple of the wise man Miyagi, again played wonderfully by Noriyuki Pat Morita. When Miyagi's father becomes ill, both Miyagi and young Daniel travel from California to Miyagi's hometown, a small village on the island of Okinawa, where Daniel soon falls in love.
Hey, look at this, we're hit. Maybe we can take it on the road.
But we are on the road.
You dance very nice. Like geisha.
Let's go.
His little teacher's favorite technique, huh? Let's go.
Hey, come on, give me the drum back, please.
Oh, you mean a baby rapper?
Come on.
Why don't baby come take it back?
Oh, man,
What is that?
Hey, man!
Yes, a fight breaks out just when that love story was getting interesting. And here Daniel has a chance to win a bet for himself and for Miyagi. Can he break all the ice?
What do you expect me to do?
Okay.
Wait, what are you going to do?
Great.
You got it. I'll bet you're in.
Wouldn't you like to have him in your refrigerator? You don't need an ice maker. I wish the love story had been allowed to develop. It's cut short, so there can be a Karate Kid 3, that's for sure. And I wish there had been more scenes with Miyagi and his father and with Miyagi and an old lady friend. Those are nice touches in the film. I'm glad they introduced them. I wish they had developed them more. But Daniel must fight a really dumb bad guy at the end of the picture, and the chance to get to know these popular characters even better, especially Miyagi and Daniel, get them together more. That's all lost. Karate Kid 2 is by no means a bad film. For me, it just runs out of steam.
I think I liked it just slightly more than you did. I like it enough to barely recommend it. You like it enough to barely not recommend it. It's right in that area. It's not as good as the original Karate Kid, which I thought was one of the best films of the year. I'll tell you what I did see in this film, and I'm sure that there will be a Karate Kid 3. What I saw in this film was more of Mr. Miyagi than I had seen before, and the more I see, the more I like. Pat Morita has created in this essentially co-starring but supporting character in the first film, one of the genuinely interesting new characters in American movies. And of course, all movies now that are really successful in this kind of genre always have sequels because it's a brand name. It's like this year's model of the Karate Kid. I think that even if Ralph Macchio at some point gets tired of playing this character or gets too old to play
take on a new student?
I'd like to see a movie called Miyagi. I'd like to see this man's story because he makes that character so lovable and so interesting.
Which is why I didn't care for the film that much, because look who we get involved with. That we saw in that last scene an older man staring there. The guy who owns the town.
Absolutely boring, overplayed villain, you're right.
Ridiculous villain. Then the guy he has to fight. Ridiculous. If, I'll tell you this, the sequel that you just sketched out, if it had been called Miyagi, and if it had been brought back Ralph Macchio's mother, who was an extraordinary character from the original, which they forgot completely, and maybe Miyagi and the mother get involved. We want human values. They're giving us ice chopping of blocks.
You're right. The final fight scene is terrible. Is ludicrous. It looks like it was recycled out of an old Superman or one of the lesser James Bond pictures. Yet, Miyagi is wonderful. Next at the movies, Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal as a couple of Chicago detectives.
We're looking for some new career challenge.
Yeah, something with a future. Show me another career they let you shoot people.
The movie is named Running Scared, and it's a fast-moving comedy thriller about a couple of Chicago police detectives who are on the trail of a big drug smuggler. Now, that plot does not sound amazingly original. In fact, I think I have seen that plot in 40 other movies about cop pairs.
I think if all the cops had caught all the drug smugglers in the movies, we'd have no drug problem in the United States today.
And then we probably have no cops either, because what would they have to do? And then we wouldn't have any movies. It's just as well I didn't catch them all. The plot is not original, but how do you like my logic? What is new about this movie is the casting. Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal are great in this movie. They develop an easygoing, wisecracking relationship based on some of the fastest and funniest and occasionally wittiest dialogue I've seen in a long time. Here's a scene that shows what I mean. This is one of the best scenes in the movie. Crystal and Hines have cornered a suspected drug runner who has $50,000 in his briefcase, but they don't know what to charge him with because they don't have any drugs as evidence, so they think up this plan to make him want to be arrested.
Go! Can I have your attention, please? This block is being designated a neighborhood watch.
What's he doing? Rich people make him crazy.
And there's a guy up here named Snake. He's wearing garage sale clothes, and the top of his hair looks like a parakeet. He also has $50,000 in small bills in a briefcase. As his neighbors, it's your responsibility to make sure there are no suspicious characters or evil perpetrators lurking in the area who would seek to do him harm. Again, $50,000 in small bills, tax-free, in a briefcase, right in this apartment, which has really cheeseball locks. You can just push your way in, bop them in the head, take the money. Nobody will know. So it's up to you. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Their district commander gets tired of their freewheeling methods and orders them to get out of town, and in Key West, they seriously consider retirement.
Women over 70. You'll love this.
It's a fixer-upper at best.
Then I'll get a better price.
It's not easy running a bar, you know.
Neither is being a cop. But running a bar has more room for error. But I'm still going to need my partner.
I can tell that. But I don't have 40,000 bucks burning a hole in my pocket.
You have been paying into the pension fund for 16 years. When you quit, you get it back. Come on, Ray, let's take a crack at the good life while we can still enjoy it. We're busting our ass in Chicago and nobody cares.
I still like being a cop.
This will be the same thing. We break up some fights, we argue with some drunks, we'll rouse some hookers, and occasionally, if we're lucky, we will get robbed.
All cop movies need a chase scene, and Running Scared comes up with a new approach, a car chase on Chicago's elevated train tracks.
4763. Pursuit has left the interstate. Now we're on the L.
That chase is supposed to be the high point of the movie, but actually there were a lot of other things I like more than the chase in this movie. The chase, in fact, for all their effort, it wasn't that good. They went to all that trouble to put those cars on the elevated tracks, and then they didn't shoot it to make it really exciting or funny. I kept waiting for a shot from ground level showing people doing a double take as a yellow cab goes overhead on the tracks. Or even in that shot we just saw where they go past the station.
Right.
How about a shot of somebody putting down his paper and a cab just went past instead of a train?
Or you have someone yell out, taxi.
It's amazing. You can do, somebody who's confused, you can do a lot with this movie, but what they did was they kept their camera mostly in the chase cars themselves. You could see it there, either point of view shots going down the track or looking ahead or looking behind at the other car. And being inside the cars in a chase is the worst place to see a chase from, a basic mistake. Anyway, Running Scared doesn't depend on the chase anyway. It depends on the chemistry between Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines, and it's there. They make a great team, and they make this movie a whole lot better than the usual cop movie. So just because of those characters and their great dialogue, I like the movie.
Okay, and this is another case where I am just under recommending it, and it's because I thought I think you did pick the best scene with that.
$50,000.
That's a very funny bit. It's a very clever bit. That's like one of the very first scenes in the movie. I steadily saw this film disappear from what I thought was going to be more with them and more in the routine of getting the drug smuggling. At times, I felt that the dialogue, even between the guys, was a little bit forced. And I'll use by comparison what I think is a better film, 48 Hours. Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte, now they're not partners, but they eventually become partners. And I thought that the interplay between them and the realism of the violence and the real comedy, I thought, was tougher than this picture. This picture is using real settings, but it's phony violence in a different way, and it just wasn't as strong for me.
Well, 48 Hours is a better picture than Running Scared, but on the other hand, 48 Hours was more of a drama.
Yes, it was.
And this movie is basically
a comedy.
A comedy.
Yeah.
And Billy Crystal, it's his first major movie role. I think he's very good in the role. Gregory Hines has always been good, and this movie shows him more in 3 dimensions than we've seen him recently.
I wish Billy Crystal had been let even looser. I felt there was almost a desire on the part of the director, Peter Hyams, to give him each equal amounts of space, and I would have let Crystal go crazy, because I think Crystal could have done, for this picture, what Eddie Murphy did in 48 Hours. That's my criticism.
That's interesting. Coming up next at the movies, Robert Redford and Deborah Winger are attorneys out to solve a murder case.
Right. Our next film is called Legal Eagles, and it stars 2 of the most popular actors around today, Robert Redford and Deborah Winger, who wind up being co-counsels in the defense of a beautiful, mysterious young woman played by Daryl Hannah from Splash, who has been accused of crimes ranging from theft to murder as part of her effort to get back a painting created by her late father. Naturally, Robert Redford, a divorced parent, is mesmerized by this young woman who worms her way into his apartment.
Personal question?
Huh?
What do you think of me?
Interesting.
The other night when I kissed you, what'd you think of that?
Dangerous.
It's a carefully chosen word.
Well, carefully chosen words are the tools of my profession.
But you know that Redford's heart has to belong to Deborah Winger at some point in the film, and when these 2 are together, even squabbling, Legal Eagles is at its best.
See you tomorrow.
Are you going to sleep with our client again?
What? What's that got to do with the trial?
It has everything to do with our working relationship. She's a very attractive young girl.
Extremely attractive.
I didn't say extremely. I said just attractive.
Extremely.
She has a nice body.
Oh, sensational body.
I'll pick the adjectives. A good body. Big eyes.
Big, hypnotic.
Big eyes.
Unforgettable.
Logan, are you going to sleep with her again or not?
Eventually, it's time for the trial, where Redford takes the unusual step of telling the jury that even he thinks it's likely that his client is guilty.
Who thinks Chelsea Dearden is guilty?
Objection, Your Honor.
Mr. Logan?
Come on, here, don't hold back. I got my hand raised. Look here. I believe that my client murdered Victor Taft in cold blood. Isn't everybody convinced?
Mr. Logan?
Come on, don't hold back. I got my hand up.
I object.
Mr. Logan?
You're convinced, aren't you?
Your Honor.
Look, prosecution says she's guilty. Everybody in the jury says she's guilty. Let's save the state of New York a lot of time and money and move directly to sentencing.
Supposed to have a fair.
What?
Isn't she entitled to a fair trial?
Oh, let's give her a fair trial and then convict her.
Now, that's a nicely written scene, because he's got something cooking, and we're trying to figure out what it is, as is the jury. And as I said before, when Winger, who is by far the best thing in this movie, she is an extraordinary actress, when she and Redford are together relating, Legal Eagles works just fine. But there's a very, very big problem with this picture that overrides their relationship, and that is simply that the case that they have to solve together is utterly boring and utterly complicated and silly in its violence. Throw that story out. You really don't need the Daryl Hannah character in this story if you think about it. Just have Winger, the lawyer, defend Redford, the client. Then you'd have a movie worth recommending. As it plays now, much too complicated, a waste of 2 wonderful performances.
The movie is way too top-heavy. It was directed by Ivan Reitman, the same man who made Ghostbusters,
Right.
and I think he's still hanging on to some of his Ghostbusters success. There's not 1, there's not 2, but there are 3 fires in this movie.
Yes.
One of them, the guy wants to destroy some books, some records, and to do that he's going to blow up an entire warehouse with his entire stock of his entire art gallery. That doesn't make sense. Another time, Daryl Hannah is arrested and charged with murder. She is found by the police in Robert Redford's bed. Now, at that point, I don't think Redford would have been qualified to be her defense attorney. Jury might have been a little bit distracted. Apart from that, you're absolutely right. Deborah Winger and Robert Redford have terrific chemistry in this movie. Deborah Winger, at this point in her career, can do no wrong. Robert Redford does better. I liked him better here than I have in a long time.
He is as loose as a goose in some of these scenes, and maybe you have to credit Reitman for that, who deals with Bill Murray a lot of time in his comedies, because he also did Meatball and Stripes. So give him credit for that. Redford, I hope he is encouraged to go back to romantic comedy like he does here. Did it in Barefoot in the Park 2 decades ago. Butch Cassidy was sort of a male romantic comedy.
The Sting was even a comedy. I think Redford, I like Redford better in comedy than when he plays Noble. I don't like, you know.
It gets too stiff.
Right. But as far as the movie is concerned, you're right. It's an overloaded, confused, too violent mess.
You got it. Next at the movies, the director of Purple Rain with Prince makes a movie about a champion bunch of gymnasts.
At least I've got a job. You got nothing! Just like
gymnasts competing in the U.S. Olympic trials. If you were listening a second ago, you heard Gene describe it as the new movie by Albert Magnoli, who directed Prince in Purple Rain, which we both thought was a great movie, but maybe Prince had something to do with it, because what's amazing is that Magnoli, the same man who could make a movie as good as Purple Rain, could then turn around and make a movie as bad as American Anthem, and I'm telling you, this movie is as bad as any movie I have seen in 1986, and if I had years on my clock here, on my wristwatch, I think I would probably have to go back to 1984 to find a movie so inept that even the gymnastic scenes themselves aren't interesting, even as sport. Even if you're interested in gymnastics, I bet the cast was bored at the cast screening of this movie. It's a collection of standard cliches. The rebellious kid who makes a comeback, the girl who realizes her potential by ignoring the coach's instructions and playing her cassette of music instead of his, and then the heroic girl athlete who competes with an injured knee. Will she be able to complete that stunt without breaking her knee again? Here's a typical scene starring Janet Jones.
What? Something wrong?
Not bad.
So what do you think? Are you going to use it?
Are you kidding? I love it.
Olympic gold medalist Mitch Gaylor plays the gymnast who has dropped out because he thinks his father doesn't love him.
Why couldn't he just tell me he cares?
Why can't you tell him? He goes to bed every night worried about you. He thinks he let you down.
He hasn't let me down. It's just the opposite.
Yeah, that's the typical problem in every family. They hate each other because they love each other too much. That was Michelle Phillips there as his mother, by the way. The central flaw in American Anthem is that it doesn't really get into gymnastics. I mean, a movie really should be about what it's about. At least that's a good place to start. Any movie that is going to end with what looks like a play-by-play of the entire Olympics trials had better explain the sport well enough so that we can really care about what's happening. But instead, we get one dumb love scene after another and that really uncomfortable story about the kid's unhappy home and his cruel father. And, you know, the little boy, the little brother says, why can't our family be normal? And everybody in the theater started to laugh. Then, of course, when this kid, Mitch Gaylor, gets to his big moment, the father does show up and cheer him on. Big deal. One thing was especially distracting in this movie. During the final long sports sequences, they kept flashing strobe lights behind the competitors, so I was always blinded. I think it was supposed to remind me of Flashdance, but all I could think about was used car lots.
It was supposed to be Instamatics, but it was totally ridiculous because obviously everyone in the audience there had been given cameras and to little flash and all that. The movie is a complete junk. You've hit at practically every reason. Why didn't the mother just get the two guys together? She knows all the secrets. Get the boy and son together and say, hey, look, here, I know what's going on. You two solve it. No, we have to wait for the final scene where the father does show up. The gymnastic scenes are worse than you see on Wide World of Sports every week. If you're interested in the gymnastics, commercial television does a better job than the movies.
Actually, the Three Stooges do a better job.
Well, that's not bad. But here's the difference. Look at a picture like Top Gun, which says, okay, we're going to show flying sequences, but we're going to show them better than kids have ever seen them before. Now, they should have the same attitude about gymnastics in this film, and they don't. It doesn't work. So much for this week. We are now going to review what we have talked about. I'm angry about that film, but I had to see it. We disagreed slightly on Karate Kid 2, Roger liking a little bit more than I did. I thought the film ran out of gas. We split again the same way, just a little bit on Running Scared. Roger enjoyed the cop caper. I found the relationship forced, but I sure enjoyed Billy Crystal, which he had a bigger part. We agreed on Legal Eagles, two reluctant downturned thumbs, because we both admired Deborah Winger and Robert Redford. But what a ridiculous story that wastes both of their talents. And we agreed that American Anthem is one of the worst, dumbest movies of this or any other year.
So I would recommend Running Scared and Karate Kid 2. You?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, well.
Except Deborah Winger's performance and Redford's in that Legal Eagles.
Okay, so you can do a little selective viewing. Just watch their performances. Next week at the movies, Rob Lowe and Demi Moore survived the singles bar scene in About Last Night, and Bette Midler and Danny DeVito are in a comedy where she's kidnapped and he doesn't want to ransom her. It's called Ruthless People. That'll be next week. Until then, we'll see you at the movies.